Hi, everyone. I hope you're all well. I hope that this time of the coronavirus, self-isolation and social distancing is not causing too much anxiety for all of you. I'm here at my farm with my children and my husband, and we're doing the whole self-isolation, homeschooling thing. So I hope you're all staying safe. Today, I want to talk to you about a situation within the federal conservative leadership race. I am independent, not affiliated with any campaign, not affiliated with any organization. But I really feel it's important that I address a certain topic today. Um, I send out emails occasionally giving supporters who supported me in my last political campaigns and in my various capacities, emails from time to time, giving them updates on what's going on. People like information. I try to distill it for them as simply as possible. But hundreds of you have written to me asking me why I'm not supporting Leslyn Lewis, who is also a leadership candidate for the Conservative Party of Canada. So I'm going to explain, I've written up a long emailer, but I'm going to read it to you today and explain to you sort of, why I have obvious reservations, because these questions seriously keep me up at night. And I take this very seriously. And I feel, because of what's happened in the last few years politically with me, I take my obligations to tell the truth very, very seriously. I have a conscience, a very active conscience, and it's always nagging me. So I always feel obliged to be forthright with you and honest. And you can do what you like with this information. Like, you can accept it or ignore it. That's up to you. I just, have to say what I have to say. Because obviously, many of you know me as a straight shooter, and I want to just give you the straight goods. So a few months ago in January, Queenie Yu, my former colleague, and I met with Leslyn Lewis and her campaign manager and a few others. And in that meeting, we had a frank discussion about several issues, very important issues that I always reference, these hard issues, these tough issues. And it was my first encounter with Leslyn as a person. And I'm pleased to report that she's like all around a lovely woman, very professional. She has excellent credentials, and she seems very sincere to me. There were, however, quite a few red flags which emerged from that meeting, either because of her answers to my questions or when I simply did a Google search after I left the meeting. So in this video and my email, I suppose, I'm going to address the most glaring of them all, and it's, in my opinion, the most urgent of these red flags, which is that Leslyn Lewis is a past national director of Women's Legal Education Action Fund. It's known as LEAF, L-E-A-F. And as of today, to my knowledge, based on this morning, Leslyn Lewis is still promoting her past affiliation with LEAF. So you're asking me, who is LEAF? What is LEAF? Well, LEAF is a national organization which has a very well-earned, notorious pro-abortion and anti-family reputation with many pro-life, pro-family organizations and leaders. Over the past 30 years, LEAF has directly engaged in the following anti-life, anti-family, and I would argue anti-woman activism. So LEAF promotes abortion resources and organizations such as Abortion Coalition Rights of Canada, National Abortion Federation of Canada. LEAF pushes for continued taxpayer funding of abortion here in Canada. LEAF intervened, managed counsel, or argued in court for the 1995, 2003, and 2006 bubble zone cases in British Columbia. So those are, bubble zones are the kind of the area around an abortion clinic in which there is to be no education or pro-life demonstration or anything like that, which is also obviously a hindrance to free speech. So LEAF was directly involved with that. They provided litigation support in a lawsuit for access to funding for abortion, access to and funding for abortion in Prince Edward Island, and that was in 2016. In 2010 to 2011, before the Ontario Court of Appeal, LEAF argued for lesser criminal charges and sentences for women who killed their newborn babies. That's called infanticide here. LEAF supported the early iterations of C-16. Remember, that was the Jordan Peterson, kind of the one he fought against. So LEAF supported those early iterations, and that is what added gender identity and gender expression to the criminal code. LEAF continues to promote gender identity theory and claims, and I quote, advocacy is and remains focused on challenging sex and gender discrimination that results in inequality for self-identified women and girls. In 2019, LEAF criticized the Toronto Public Library, so this was just a few months ago, for hosting Megan Murphy. And for those of you who don't know who she is, she's a feminist speaker who renounces gender identity theory. So there have been a lot of groups who tried to deplatform her. So Leaf was one of the ones who criticized the Toronto Public Library. And in 2015, the notorious year when Kathleen Wynne here in Ontario introduced her age-inappropriate sex ed curriculum, Leaf applauded it, and this curriculum is now supported by Ontario Premier Doug Ford. In 2018 to 2019, Leaf argued at the Ontario Court of Appeal against conscience rights for doctors and healthcare workers to force them to refer for abortion. And other groups were there as interveners to try to force these doctors to refer for euthanasia. So that's a big problem. And Leaf also runs a program called the Feminist Strategic Litigation Project. And that's funded, but with your tax dollars, to the tune of $880,000 by the federal government's, I didn't even know this department existed, but it's called the Department for Women and Gender Equality. So that's just some of my massive red flags with Leaf that many, many Canadians are aware of. But that's Leaf, pro-abortion and anti-family to its fingertips. So obviously when I discovered Leslyn's connection to this group earlier this year, I immediately said to myself, okay, well, maybe Leslyn didn't know that Leaf was involved in all these things, or that it was such a radical anti-family, pro-abortion organization. But Leaf has been around since 1985, and it's, again, very well known in pro-life and pro-family circles for its rabid left-wing activism. You know, Leaf has even been actively engaged, and it was even actively engaged in this kind of legal activism well before Leslyn Lewis joined the Leaf's board as a national director in 2010. So surely, you know, Leslyn's a very intelligent, very capable woman. You know, surely if she was recruited to this board or she applied to this board, she would have researched them and then discovered their long, you know, well-advertised history of pro-abortion and anti-family activism. You know, she's a lawyer after all with a PhD to boot. So, you know, she's a very intelligent woman. And, you know, over 2 months ago, I did bring this to Leslyn's attention, and I asked her actually to renounce her association with Leaf and to condemn the radical activism. And she didn't respond to my request. And to my knowledge, and to this date, she has yet to renounce her relationship with Leaf in any public way. You know, obviously in charity, I hope and pray that Leslyn Lewis has had a change of heart and regrets her affiliation with Leaf. But of course, questions still remain. Why did she leave Leaf? You know, if Leslyn quit Leaf out of principle, or maybe they pushed her out, I don't know. But then why does she continue to feature Leaf prominently on her biography? She's a board member, you know, right now on leave, but she's a board member at the Ontario Trillium Fund. And this is where I first discovered her affiliation. I just simply Googled her name, and then there's her bio. And the Ontario Trillium Fund, she features that she was a past national director on the board of directors for Leaf. So if Leslyn had any sort of break with Leaf, then why is she continuing to promote her affiliation with them? You know, why persist with any kind of involvement or an affiliation with this pro-gender ideology, pro-abortion radical group? So in good conscience, again, you know, my conscience it bothers me all the time. So my conscience, I cannot support her until this and other concerns are addressed and reconciled. Because to do so, I feel would be a lie to my integrity and my conscience and obviously my Christian faith. Those are very important things to me, and I hold them with high regard. So I can't reconcile this at this point. And like I said, I've made these concerns known to Leslyn, and I've waited patiently for 2 months for an adequate response. I hoped she would have clarified her position, but this hasn't happened clearly. And in the past few months, you know, Leslyn has raised herself over $300,000 in donation, presenting herself in pro-life, which is, you know, it is what it is. But her record as a member of Leaf's national board makes me wonder what's going on. And then, you know, some people might ask, well, then why are some pro-life groups and individuals supporting Leslyn Lewis? And I think that's an excellent question. You know, I see that some of these prominent individuals and pro-life organizations are endorsing Leslyn Lewis's candidacy, and I can't for the life of me understand why. How do these organizations reconcile this fact with the stated goals of their respective organizations and even their personal belief system? And several of these prominent and influential players in these pro-life groups are very well aware of Leslyn Lewis's connection with Leaf. I know because I told some of them months ago. And for those who didn't know, like I said, I just discovered it by a simple Google search. So it's out there. That's, again, how I discovered it, Google. Like many of you, I have only come to know Leslyn in the last couple months. And this wouldn't be maybe such a big deal if she was running for some like local CPC nomination, conservative nomination, or some small political office. But she's running for the highest political office in the country. So, you know, I would be perhaps more lenient again if it was a small office, but this is the highest office. So, seeing that she has absolutely no public voting record on family and life issues because she's never been elected official, I can only, and you can only assess her by, as a political candidate, by her public statements and her actions, past and present. Leslyn Lewis says she's pro-life, and she seems very sincere in her belief, and I don't doubt that. But again, I have a hard time reconciling this with her past affiliations and her refusal to address this topic to date. Again, it's my sincere hope that Leslyn will do the right thing, and she needs to renounce LEAF immediately for their pro-abortion, pro-radical sex ed, pro-gender identity, anti-free speech, and anti-family activism. She needs to explain why she joined them in the first place, why she left, and why she continues to feature her past with them. And like I said, this has been weighing on me heavily for the last several weeks. Hundreds of you email me asking me these questions. I felt compelled to say this now because I don't know. I just have to be very forthright with you. So I hope you all take this under consideration, do with it what you like. And maybe you'll do nothing with it. That's fine, whatever you like. But I just needed to get that out there and get that off my conscience. So I wish you all a very blessed Easter for those who are celebrating. I know we're about a week away. It's, obviously very stressful times here with the coronavirus lockdown, but I wish you all like the absolute best for Easter, a very safe and healthy one. And please take care of your family, especially the grandparents who, might be feeling extra isolated during this time. Thank you so much.